independence. And we've come a long way now in the Fourth Republic. So we have to make sure that we maintain the advantages that we have chalked up. Now, I think it's fair to say that in the Fourth Republic, every election has seen an improvement. My concern is that there's a trend all over Africa, anyway, that every time you lose an election, you want to cause fracas to such an extent that it undermines the entire fabric of the democratic process and indeed the economy. Because the number of foreign potential investors and emissaries, ambassadors that I have talked to that are very concerned about the approach the opposition party has taken is quite remarkable, in the sense that here we are, the beacon of stability, the beacon, the destination for foreign direct investment, the destination for new ideas, for new instruments in terms of economic development, in terms of profit. And yet this is being undermined by what we can describe as being slightly facetious.
But you don't see them deepening democracy in that regard. The fact that look, they didn't take on to the street, but rather stayed on and ensure that they sought their redress in court. You don't see that as deepening our democracy at all?
Well, of course it is. I mean, the fact that we did take to the streets, I mean, let's be honest, we had some very shaky moments. And that's the time when most people expressed.
But was managed.
You know, and we managed it. But it's risky strategy. I think, without going too much into this vision, right before independence, in fact, similar tradition, challenging. Of course, you have to challenge, but it has to be on a basis that is generally acceptable to the vast majority of the voters and the population, and also to your friends, international friends and so on. All I'm saying is that it was adzi kakra, it was a little bit disconcerting to many of our friends, including the African Union. I think that's perhaps the genesis of some of the statements made by the President Yahya Boni.
Let's look at the implication, then we can quickly move on to other areas. Do you see Ghana being at an advantage edge, or could be at a disadvantage as per the outcome of whatever happens in court?
No, I think what it shows is that we are still some way of building a national consensus around electoral processes and the democratic process as a whole. I think the extent to which irregularities occur is coming down, and they have occurred in virtually every election, not only in this country, but even in well-established democracies like the US, as we well know, in 2000. Now, I think it will inure to the benefit of our democracy as a whole. I think the result will clearly not change the status quo, and it will be lessons learned for all of us. And I think that we need to be certain that we have all our facts, and that we are clear why we're taking certain actions, and not to sort of start to question the institution of the judiciary, which already we have. That's where the risk comes. If we are going to court, fine, let's go to court. Let's be very sanguine about how we proceed. But when it becomes a challenge on every front, as we have seen in the last few days, then it starts to undermine our democratic process, judiciary, parliament, and against it.
Okay, and I've got a number of questions from our listeners for you. A number of them would want to know a lot from you. I'll be sharing that with you in just a short while. But let me just remind listeners that we are in the studio with Dr. J.S. Anand. He's a former Deputy Minister, Trades and Industry, and also former Member of Parliament for the Kia constituency. We'll talk about your constituency in a short while and what probably you missed, being a Member of Parliament. But let's talk about the Trades and Industry Ministry and also some of the things that you did there to put Ghana on the world map in terms of development. What can you point to in terms of achievement?
Well, I think the first thing you have to say with the Trade Ministry, I've always classed it as the economic engine room. We as a ministry are in charge of making things happen in the economy, whilst the finance ministry and other associated ministries, make sure that we have the revenue, mobilization to do. The trade ministry had two main policies that pushed and I think contributed significantly to the economic growth of Ghana.